I will never forget the moment I walked into that crowded rooftop lounge. The glow of hanging Edison bulbs flickering against the night sky as laughter and music rose like smoke through the air. My wife Emily stood at the center of it all. Radiant, confident, the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. But tonight, something felt different. Her smile was too bright, too effortless, too carefully aimed at the tall, broad-shouldered man standing just inches from her. I watched the way she touched her hair, the way her eyes softened as she looked at him, the way her entire face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. Something inside me cracked slow and quiet like ice splitting under pressure. I didn't show it. I didn't breathe a word. I just observed, and something cold, calculating, and strangely calm settled inside me. For the next hour, I pretended everything was normal. Laughing with co-workers, clinking glasses, nodding at people who had no idea that my marriage was slowly bleeding out right in front of them. But my eyes kept drifting back to her. And every time I saw the same thing, that glow, that spark, that joy reserved only for someone who wasn't me. They leaned close, whispered, shared private little giggles, and every gesture felt like a needle under my skin. But the strangest part, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clarity, a painful, sharp truth sliding into place. My wife was reaching for something she thought she was missing. And she no longer cared that I could see it. Then it happened. The moment she crossed a line so boldly, so stupidly, so blatantly disrespectful that the entire room seemed to shift. He said something. I couldn't hear what. And she burst into laughter, placing her hand on his chest like she was claiming him in front of everyone. Not a friendly touch, not a playful gesture, a slow, intimate drag of her fingers like she had forgotten I existed entirely. People saw faces changed. Somebody gasped. Even he looked unsure. And she didn't pull her hand back. She didn't even look in my direction. That was the moment the door inside me closed firmly. And finally, I felt my heart harden into something unrecognizable. I walked toward them slowly, not angrily, not dramatically, but with a steady confidence of a man who had already made up his mind. Conversations died, heads turned, the music thumped in the background, but the air between us was dead silent. Emily noticed me only when I was a step away. She blinked, startled, the laughter dying on her lips, her hand snapping away from his chest as if burned. I didn't look at her. I didn't look at him. I just let out one breath and whispered the calmest, most collected sentence I've ever said in my life. One that cut through the room like a blade. So this is what you look like when you're actually happy, I said. No yelling, no bitterness, no insult, just truth, raw, sharp, undeniable. Her boss's smile collapsed, his eyes widening like he'd been struck. Emily froze, her face draining of color. The room went pin-drop silent. She tried to speak my name, a protest, an explanation, but her mouth opened and closed uselessly, like she'd forgotten how words worked. Because everyone understood what my sentence meant, they understood what it exposed. The cracks she thought she hid were now wide open for the entire room to stare into. I took off my wedding ring, feeling the weight of every broken promise in that tiny band, and placed it gently on the table beside them. No drama, no scene, just a quiet declaration that echoed louder than any confrontation could. People stared, stunned. Someone whispered, "Oh my God," under their breath. Emily reached toward me, her voice shaking. But I stepped back before her fingers could graze me. The smell of her perfume, once comforting, felt suffocating now. I turned to walk away, feeling lighter with every step, like I was shedding a version of myself that had held on too long. But then behind me came a sound I never expected to hear in public. Wait. Emily's voice cracked with something raw, desperate, terrified. The entire room flinched at the panic in her tone. I paused, not because she deserved it, but because the fear in her voice wasn't the fear of losing me. It was the fear of losing a secret. A fear so thick I could practically feel it hit my back. I slowly turned around. She looked like a totally different woman. Shaking, eyes glossy, lips trembling, her perfect confidence shattered into dust. She didn't care about the room. She didn't care about her boss. She didn't care that everyone was watching. She only cared about something she wasn't ready to let slip, something she had been hiding long before tonight. Her boss stepped away awkwardly, hands raised, distancing himself from a situation that suddenly felt far, far bigger than flotation. "I need to tell you something," she whispered, voice breaking. And the way she said it, low, terrified, pleading, didn't sound like guilt from flirting. It sounded like a confession she'd been terrified to make. My chest tightened, not with love, but with dread. The room held its breath. She looked around, shaking her head as if trying to chase away her own panic. And then she met my eyes with a desperation that made the hair on my arm stand up. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she said, her voice collapsing in on itself. "I didn't want," she choked, covering her mouth, tears filling her eyes. "Please don't walk away. Not before I tell you why I've been distant. Why I've been scared." The words tumbled out, disorganized, frantic, spiraling. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't about tonight. This wasn't about her boss. This wasn't about flirting. This was about something deeper, darker, heavier, something she'd been carrying alone. My heart beat hammered as she finally forced the words out. "I've been diagnosed months ago. I didn't tell you because I didn't know how you'd look at me. I didn't want you to pity me. I didn't want to be the broken one. I pushed you away because I was terrified of you leaving if you knew." Her shoulders shook violently. "I flirted. I joked. I acted like I didn't care because hiding was easier than watching you watch me fall apart." Her voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. The room didn't gasp. It didn't move. It simply folded in on us. I stood there stunned, the anger draining from my body like water through open fingers. I didn't forgive her. Not instantly, not magically. But suddenly, for the first time in months, I understood the fear in her eyes. The distance, the walls she built between us. She wasn't choosing someone else. She was running from herself. And now, with her secret exposed, she wasn't running anymore. She was trembling, crying, begging. Not for attention, not out of guilt, but out of sheer terror of what came next. And as the room watched, silent and breathless, I realized my next step would determine everything. Revenge or mercy.